Hey, welcome back, Bronto buddies. Let's make fresh pasta. For this project, we're gonna need flour, eggs, salt, a rolling pin, and a knife. All right? It's pretty simple. We don't need too much for this. Making your own pasta at home is actually a pretty simple process. So let's get into this here. First off, we will pour out our flour onto our work surface. We're going to create a little bit of a well here just with our finger. Don't need anything else there. Very, very simple. Keep on making that well. You'll just form it, it's kind of moving that flour out until you can kind of see a little bit of your work surface there. And so we'll crack some eggs. We're going to start focusing on adding some moisture to our pasta here. So that's 2 whole eggs that we've cracked. So we crack them into a container to make sure that we can avoid any shrapnel there. It's the main part. So those 2 eggs go in, and then we are now cracking 4 more whole eggs, which we dip our fingers in to extract the yolk. You see that? So we're just letting that white kind of come right off from the yolk, and then we're left with just the yolk. Really, really nice technique here. Crack your eggs ahead of time and then extract the yolks. Then you save yourself some time kind of doing that back and forth from shell to shell sort of a thing. And that's it. So then let's crack, or rather extract the rest of our yolks. So then that's 4 yolks and then 2 whole eggs we have going into this here. Now we're at the part where we mix. So you grab your fork, and I like to start by sort of breaking the yolks first, and then I just scramble them. As I'm scrambling, I'm kind of mixing in a little bit of flour here and there, just kind of pulling a little bit in, but not too much all at once. You want to keep on mixing and keep on gradually adding a little bit of flour. Oh, but you know what we forgot? Salt. We cannot forget the salt. Salt is really, really important here. It helps with the hydration as well as the tenderness of the pasta dough. I had totally forgotten to put that in at the beginning, so let's not forget now. And then we go right back to mixing this up. Scramble, gradually adding in that flour until we start to thicken up here. You can see as we're getting a little bit thicker, a little thicker as we keep on slowly adding more flour, but we're not quite there yet. You can see here we're getting close. It's kind of like a batter, like a pancake batter, I would say. But we want it to go just a little thicker. So keep on working in a little more of that flour until you end up with something that kind of looks a little more like this. You can see just how much more slowly it's falling off of that fork as compared to just a few seconds ago, just before there. So now we're going to start working a lot of that flour into our wet dough by hand here. So the whole point of this process is to continue adding your dry stuff to your wet stuff and your wet stuff to your dry stuff. You want your flour to be hydrated, and once the flour is hydrated, you then start to form some gluten. So pick whatever method you're comfortable with, and just work your wet ingredients into your dry, and your dry ingredients into your wet. The technique that I'm using here is it's kind of like a back and forth, push, kind of switching hands until we have ourselves a nice dough. Kind of shaggy looking, but it's a mass that we are finally working with. Let's clean up our work surface here. And by the way, cleaning up a work surface, especially when it comes to flour, this is a bench scraper. Really, really efficient, beautiful tool. It's one of my favorite things to use in the kitchen. Helps to clean up your workspace pretty quickly, especially for just kind of minor clear 'em up jobs there. So we are finished incorporating any more flour rather into our dough. So now it's just a matter developing all the glutens, and we're still continuing with the process. The whole idea being hydrating all the flour until well, until you just kind of work all the wet things into the dry until you end up with this. It's kind of a slightly tacky kind of a dough, but it's not yet ready to use. So we're gonna wrap this up in plastic wrap, cover it up with something that makes it helps make it airtight, because we don't want the dough to dry out. I'm gonna allow this to sit in plastic for, let's see, probably an hour or two, dependent on just how long you've worked your dough and how much gluten you've kind of exercised in there. So we'll take our dough out. Let's check it out here. We're gonna cut off a little piece and see just how well rested our dough is. See if we're kind of at where we want. You can see as I'm rolling it out, as I push it out, it kind of rolls back in on itself. That is not what we want. This shows that the dough is actually not well rested enough, so we're going to give it another opportunity here to rest a little further. So another 45 minutes is what I did here to allow it to just relax a little bit more, and that'll make our dough that much more pliable, that much more easy to work with. You can see here now that when we apply the rolling pin, it doesn't like retract back on itself nearly as much. And so from there, now that our dough is acting the way that we want it to, we're gonna cut it into some shapes. Well, you've made your first pasta dough sheet, so now is the really fun part. You can just cut it into whatever shapes that you want. I'm starting with just like a couple of strips here, and then I cut it into like weird rectangles there. Other than that though, I mean, make yourself some bow ties, or ultimately what you can end up doing is, well, what we're about to do here. So I ended up choosing to make ravioli. I got myself a jar lid, and I'm gonna use that to punch out holes from the rolled out pasta sheet. And so you punch that first hole, you kind of push down, give it a little twist. There you go. Do that for the rest of the dough. Remove your excess dough here. Let's just do a little ASMR. Pull them off. Lovely. Beautiful. All right, you set that aside. Use it for some kind of a pasta dish if you want later, whatever. But let's go back to focusing on our ravs here. So I filled mine with roasted red peppers and feta cheese. You could fill yours with whatever you want. So those egg whites that we had separated from our yolks earlier, you're gonna go ahead and grab those, use those to moisten your pasta dough so that you can get yourself a nice seal. And then grab a pasta sheet, apply that to the top of the moistened dough, give it a little press, try to seal as best as you can. And so here's another little mistake I had here. I had overfilled my pasta dough, but you know what? No big deal. We just squeeze out that extra little bit, make sure to wipe off any excess so it doesn't get too sticky, and then go back to sealing it up. And you can see it looks just fine. If you have too much excess, you just take that little bit out, give yourself a nice little seal, and then you're done. No big deal at all. Finish up the rest of them, and then we can get to shaping, even further shaping these ravioli. So you can see I got a smaller lid here, and this creates a more secure seal, if you will. Forces those two layers together, and we get a really beautiful seal now. And it's really challenging to try and get any ingredients coming out of this at this point. So if you want to do this, go for it. It gives you a little bit of uniformity to your dish as well. At that point, you boil your stuff, you boil your raviolis in whatever you choose. I ended up using a leek and pepper infused beef stock, so that's why it's got that beautiful red hue to it. We'll sauce it up. And I'm sure you all are noticing that the mini cheese grater there, so cheese up your dish, and then it's time to dig in. So that pasta, I ended up rolling out a little thicker than I had first anticipated, but it ended up giving this really beautiful bite. So when it comes to fresh pasta, The cook time is all dependent on just how thick you roll out your pasta, as well as just how wet or how dry your pasta is. Thanks so much for stopping by and checking out the video. I hope you Bronto buddies give homemade pasta a try because it's super worth it. Dried pasta is beautiful too, but there's something really about making your own. Also, if you can rally some family or friends to join in, the pasta shaping process can be a really fun time as well. I'm looking forward to cooking with you all live on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/uncle_Brontosaurus. Visit us there to get our schedule, and please feel free to join in on the Dino Dining Hall. Cheers, Bronto buddies.